So there's an issue in Australia with young people not being able to really afford anything. But is this true, or is this a concept full of complaints by the younger generation that isn't really a problem? You're watching Phil Panner. We're going to be taking this 1993 EG Honda Civic for a drive, and we're just going to be talking about it. So stay tuned. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this topic, this is my 1993 EG Honda Civic. For those car people out there that know it, I have held on to this for a long time, 20 years or so, and this is probably the most reliable car I've ever owned, but it's also probably the most boring car as well. With that out of the way, the younger generation. So, there's a lot of people out there that talk about the wage crisis and the living crisis, and yes, those things are real problems. And I'd like to think that with the newly elected government, things are only going to be better. But I'm not going to be talking about politics because that's not what I'm here for. I want to talk about what you can do, because regardless of who's in power, it's at the end of the day, it's up to you what you decide to do with your time. Now, to really understand, and I hope this car's exhaust is not too loud. It's not an aftermarket exhaust. There's just a hole in the exhaust and it sounds like shit. But anyway, we'll have to deal with it. Pretty much, when it comes to living, obviously money is everything. Money is the thing that makes the world go round, and it's the difference between you living a good life and a bad life. And it depends how you earn that money and also how you spend that money. Very obvious stuff. The median wages in Australia is around $80,000 to $90,000. Now, how do you get to $90,000 a year if you're not earning that already? Well, let's start with if you're a young person, because I have had some experience with this, and I've also made a lot of mistakes in my time before landing into the sort of career path that I'm on now. If you're a young person, you've just finished high school, you've turned 18, what to do now? I know that everyone says go to uni, but it's not for everyone, and it wasn't for me, and I never went to uni. The reason why I say that, and the reason why I want to talk about that, is because when you sign yourself up for uni, that is one of the biggest complaints people have when they leave uni, is the HECS debt. You're signing yourself up for debt, and if you don't know what you want to do, that's not a good idea. A lot of people who I work with, and keep in mind, I'll expand on what I do, but I work in finance. And a lot of those people have uni degrees and they have over 50 grand in debt with their HECS. And if you're not in Australia, HECS is the interest-free loan that you get to take out when you're studying, and then you have to pay it off when you earn a certain wage, like above 50 grand or 40 grand, you start to have to pay it off. And although you don't accumulate interest, I don't think, you have to pay it off. Like it comes out of your income before you get to see your own money. And that can be a detriment to a lot of people. And half the people that I speak to that are in the same role as me, who have HECS and they're paying off their debt, their take home is really unfortunate. Like, it's quite saddening considering they earn the same as me and I take home way more than they do, only because of that HECS. And did they need the university studies or degrees to get into this job? No, they didn't. So I understand when you're young, you don't really know what you want to do, but think twice before jumping into uni for those young people. And if you are in uni and you're jumping around in courses, maybe just not. Maybe reconsider, actually sit down and say, what do I want to do in my life? And we're not talking all jobs. Some jobs require a university degree, but a job in finance, a job in sales, most jobs that get you to $90,000 a year that don't need a university degree, and they can be learnt on the job. And I know many people who have done it without that university degree, and although they had a degree in something, it wasn't used to get their job. So just wanted to get that one out of the way, that going into studies for the sake of study to please your parents, or just because you don't know what to do, or studying an arts degree, that might be the reason why you're complaining 20 years later down the track that you have no money. So with that out the way, consider university only if you think you need it. If you're going to be a doctor, yes, you need university. There's no way around that. But there are things that you can do, financial related, sales related, administration related, that you don't need a university degree. When it comes to getting into these jobs. Now, I know a lot of people who, they're on the 50, 60K salary, and a lot of them are blue collar workers, unfortunately, which is the type of industries that I would have hoped earn more. I actually come from that industry. I was a blue collar worker. I was a carpenter, getting paid absolutely nothing to risk my life every day. And I got exposed to all sorts of chemicals. I got exposed to asbestos, and I earned, in my time of 3 years that I was working as a carpenter. I was an apprentice at the time, going into a qualified. I was earning like 40 grand a year, which, looking back on that, I would never trade my life again for a shit job like that for 40 grand a year. And I understand that some people think that that's all they can really do and that's all they're worth. But look, if you're young, you're moldable. You can do whatever you want to do. You can learn whatever you want to learn. You just need some commitment and drive. And that is the number one thing that I'm going to focus on in this segment, because if you don't have commitment and drive, maybe just switch off the video, like I can't help you. But if you do have commitment and drive, if you have even just an inkling of wanting to do better in your life, then this type of advice is for you. It's slow, it's not pretty, like it takes time. Let's talk about getting there. So some of the roles that can achieve this is probably, and easier to get into, is definitely sales. I'm not going to say what kind of sales because they all differ. You would have to do your own research. I personally don't like sales. I hate it. I did that job for a while, but it was necessary for me to get to where I am today because it helped me build up my personality. It helped me come out of my shell as a young person. And you're on a salary, a small base salary, and you get a commission. So yes, by working in sales, I was definitely able to get close to that good salary bracket for the median. I was pushing $75,000, $80,000 for one of my first corporate roles, and although it was hard, life was good. Now, other jobs include finance. You don't need a degree to get into most financial roles, and you start from the bottom. Most likely it's going to be a phone contact center role, and you work your way up. Most companies are like that. You're looking at medium to large companies. I highly recommend looking at big companies. You might have a different opinion on that, but the reason why I say that is because it's easier to climb if it's a bigger company. If it's a small company, you are probably not going to be able to climb as quick, and it's more so who you know, not what you know. So a big company, like a big bank, a big superannuation company, a big insurance company, you can work your way from the phones, you can prove yourself, you can do step-ins to leadership positions, and you can really put yourself in a position where you're going to be chosen for those higher roles and higher salary roles. And look, it's not going to happen to everyone. It's only going to happen to those people who apply themselves. So yes, you will need to do the work. You can't just sit back and cruise in these roles and do nothing. You have to go above and beyond and do the extra work. But the reality is, not many people want to do the work. So if you just want to do a bit more than the next person, assuming that there's no politics holding you down or a bad boss, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to climb. And that's what happened to me. I was a dumb chippy or carpenter, didn't really know much, didn't know how to do my times tables, didn't pay attention in school, and I came out of the trade, jumped into sales, winged it, faked it till I made it, did all right, didn't do the greatest. I wasn't the best salesperson because I was so stiff, but it taught me, very, very good life skills. And fast forward to, the pandemic, when I got made redundant from my sales role because there wasn't a need anymore, jumped into the finance on we're talking the bottom of the barrel call center role. Some non-VTech baby. Anyway, we're talking about the bottom of the barrel phone center roles, the bottom of the barrel call center roles, and that's where I started. Now I'm progressing up the chain. 5 years later, I'm well above the median income. That's not a brag, I'm just trying to explain what you can do in 5 years if you apply yourself. and you know, I'm off the phones. I don't have to worry about talking to people, and I'm just running projects. So that's possible for anyone who applies themselves. I don't want to spend too much time here because now it's just getting into motivational crap, and that's not really what this is about. So other than income, let's assume that you've got your income sorted out, and I just want to quickly make a point that if you enjoy your job and you are not earning a big income, that's okay, because doing a job like in finance that you don't like, for example, or in sales that you don't like, and yes, you might be earning the good salary, but you hate the job, that's not good. Money is not everything, and I understand I said before that it is, because it kind of is, but I've been in a position where you hate your job so much, the money doesn't really matter, and you rather take a step back. So if you're in that position where you love your job, you love going to work every day, but it just unfortunately doesn't pay very well, there's other things you need to do to really better your position. And I don't think it should be taking up more jobs. Like I know people who are working multiple jobs, and I don't think that's the answer, because that's where you start to burn yourself out, and that's where you become bitter about life. I think the answer is to work on something that is yours, and not necessarily your own business. Like things like this, YouTube. I'm working on YouTube because I like it. If it does well, it does well. I'm not really concerned. If I make money, I make money. Over this time of YouTube, I've met people. I've done small jobs for people, film related, because I enjoy it and it pays. Because the reality is, if you're doing something that you hate, but you're earning 100 grand a year, or whatever that looks like for you, well, that's not really great advice, and you're gonna be miserable anyway. So if you enjoy your job, power to you, stay in that job. Don't go and quit for some finance role. You love your job, you get up in the morning every day. That's half the battle. That's half the reason why most people are miserable with good salaries. So if you like what you do, stick to it and look at what other options you have to make money. It might be a side hustle. You might be into wedding photography and you get paid on the weekends for weddings because that's something that you enjoy. You might start a YouTube channel. That takes a long time. So if you want money straight away, I don't advise doing that. That's like a 5-year, 6-year plan unless you blow up. Believe me, I know, because it's still happening for me. And it might not ever happen. It might not ever take off. And that's fine. That's what I'm aware of this. I'm putting in the time in because I enjoy it. I like talking in front of a camera. But the reality is, yeah, if you're on a lower income and you enjoy the job, then that means that you need to look at other things. And this is where it gets into what are the other things. That I don't know. I don't know what that looks like for you, but there are many different things people can do. You know, someone's doing a knitting company, they're making like knitting templates and they're selling them online. Someone I know has made their own product and they're selling it. Someone else enjoys real estate sales that much, you know, however they manage that, they do real estate on the side. Like I personally would never do that, but they enjoy it, which is great. If they enjoy real estate sales and whatnot, then that's the second job that they do have, but they enjoy it. And if you're gonna have a second job, as long as you enjoy it, I guess it's not really an issue. Things that you can apply yourself outside of work, it doesn't compromise your existing job, and that might be able to make money, that would be your ticket out if you don't think that you're able to increase your wages in your current position now. I'm not going to talk too much on it because I haven't really excelled in that kind of thing, and I do know people who have, but that's their story, not mine. I want to talk more about the people who have the ability to choose where they want to live. You're a single person, or you're a young person with a partner, or you're a young person in general. That's who I want to appeal to here. How you spend your money is really important to what your future is going to be. It's very easy to spend your money on shit. And believe me, I know, because I did that. But between the ages of 15, when I started working at a crappy retail job, to the age of 21, and I hadn't really figured out money. And the problem was that I was spending all my money every single year, and I wasn't able to save anything. And a lot of people are probably going to be in the same position. I had nothing to my name. I kind of felt a bit shit about it, but I was young and stupid and I was just spending. I wasn't thinking. I was buying food, I was buying products, I was buying cars, I was just wasting money and I wasn't thinking about the future. Nowadays, it's all about the future. You're allowed to have fun in your life, But if you don't want to have a life where you're complaining about not having enough money, you need to take a look at yourself and your spending and understand what you're actually buying. So that comes to, if you're a young person and you have the ability to stay home with your parents, as brutal as that sounds for some people, assuming that you live in a non-toxic environment or non-abusive environment, stay home. If you've got loving parents that nag you but they love you, stay home. If they're happy to cover you, stay home. The reason being is because whilst you're at home, you don't have to worry about rent, mortgages, or expenses. And this is the perfect time to save for your future, to buy that house, to move out and be independent but not worry about money and still have something behind you. That's what I did. I stayed home as long as I could because my parents, they're European, they want me home, but they were a pain in the ass, I will admit. And that's fine because you're able to stay a bit longer so that you can save up for that house deposit. And that's what I did with my fiance. Having said that, spending was very tight. We deliberately did not spend too much, but we still enjoyed our lives. We didn't go out. We didn't feel the need to. Going out, clubbing and stuff, that was old news. Every now and again we might choose a event where we liked music, but we would be very, very conservative. We wouldn't be going hard. We wouldn't drink. We would drive there so we could drive ourselves home, because that's where it all adds up. You can be strategic with your outings and still live a good life. In terms of food, we cooked everything. Yes, some people aren't able to cook in their parents' kitchen, or some people are not able to cook at all. Learn how to cook. Going out and spending $30 to $70 on meals per sitting or per day, depending on what kind of meals you're having. We're very into our health foods, and that stuff is very expensive. Make it yourself. I get produce is expensive, but it is never going to be in comparison to buying good food. If you're buying takeout, even takeout is getting expensive, and it's just not viable sometimes. So if you're finding that you are buying food every day, go back to basics. Stop buying food, stop buying coffees. Make your own coffee, make your own sandwiches for work, make your own food in general, and you will save more money. That is a fact. And it might take some time to meal prep, but there is so many videos online to help you make food and freeze it, and having food available to you. Learn how to cook. There's cookbooks, there's YouTube, there's everything. So there's not really any excuses. I think the food thing was probably the biggest saver for us. I calculated, I was spending $3,000 a year on coffees, and I was spending about $6,000 or $7,000 a year on food, on dinners and lunches. And that's because I couldn't cook to save my life. Nowadays, my fiance is an amazing cook. I can cook to save my life, and I can make good food. Back then, I was just cooking non-stop in my parents' kitchen to save $1, and I saved much of it. And that was partly in the 4 years of savings. That was a big chunk of our house deposit. So, just small things like that makes a massive difference. Let's say that you're not in a position to live at home, and most people are not, and that's okay as well. You might have to consider your options. Your options might be to find a cheap share house with people that are nice, that you can live with for a couple of years and pay a very small rent and expenses split between a bunch of people. And for some people, they don't like the idea of that, but if you want to live on your own, it's going to be expensive, and you might never escape that rent trap, and you might be putting yourself into a worse position later without being able to buy a house and with having no money, and then you become a statistic like everyone else who complains that the cost of living is too high, because rent is too high, and so is mortgages right now. But interest rates coming down. I don't know what's going on with rents, but the reality is, as a single person, to go and rent a full house or apartment on your own, it might not be a good idea. If you can share house, especially if you know people that are fun to be around, it keeps you social, not isolated, but it also helps you save on rent and allows you to put money back in your pocket. This whole exercise is about putting money back into your pocket. And it's possible. It's not all doom and gloom like people make it out to be, for most anyway. I can't say for everyone's situation because there are people who just can't for whatever reason, but majority of young people can save money if they choose to. They just have to be strategic about it. Now let's move on to the topic of shopping. I mentioned before, shopping was my worst enemy when I was young, and it's gonna be your worst enemy too, because buying things off Temu is not sustainable. You don't need it, it's crap, it's garbage, it's gonna break, or it might end up in the bin very soon. Be very cautious of how you spend your money when it comes to shopping. Buy things with intent. If you need something, I need a camera for my YouTube channel, okay, buy it. There will be a return on investment. I need to buy some shoes because they're cool and everyone will think I look cool. No, that's not a good reason to buy something. Buying a Gucci bag that you can't afford just so you can get a flex on other people, you know, that's a stupid way to live your life, especially if you can't afford it. Yeah, being material has never really been my thing. I was spending stupid money on mainly food and other random things. There's a nice R7 Yamaha that's probably going to destroy my sound, but anyway. Buying dumb things that you are probably going to put into a cupboard, especially designers, is not the way to go if you don't have the money. If you have an exorbitant amount of money, be my guest, buy whatever you want. But we're talking about people who are complaining they can't save up for a house. And this is mostly people's lifestyles. People consume so much things in a short period of time, so much money wasted, and most of this stuff ends up in landfill, in the oceans, from what I've seen, or it just sits in your cupboard forever. And I have been a victim of this as well. I've bought shoes over the years. You know, I bought a brand new set of Jordans when I was younger. I still own those Jordans. I've worn them like 10 times. And that, you know, I can't say that was a great purchase. But now, in my older days, I'm trying to wear those damn Jordans and get my money's worth, because I didn't get my money's worth back then. I probably should have never bought these Jordans on sale for $300 because they were Jordans and everyone had Jordans. That's the reality. Shopping is bad in most cases. Shopping with intent and looking at what your return on investment will be for those items is good. If you need to shop at Uniqlo or Kmart or something to get plain clothing, that's fine. No one's gonna hate you because you wanna not spend money on designers. Like, if your friends only care about designers and look at you sideways if you're wearing Kmart clothing, they're shit friends. If you've got 101 show subscriptions such as Netflix, Stan, you need to look at whether you use them and cut them out of your life. If you've got subscriptions to other random things where you have to pay per month, have a look at what exactly those are, because they do add up. So shopping, subscriptions, buying things that you don't necessarily need and doing a cleanup of your finances is going to help you save. And there's a lot of really good ways that you can save. There's a lot of things that you can take advantage of if you want to still enjoy your life. You know, you can get really quizzed up on how to use a credit card effectively, how to make the most of discounts and vouchers, and a lot of companies have loyalty programs that you can be a part of. And as long as you take advantage of them and use them correctly and not go and overspend to maximize them, then you can make the most of these type of situations. I've now reached my destination and I think I'm going to cut the video here, but this is a topic that can go on and on and on. There is so much more to talk about. I barely even scraped the surface of how to get the good job, and also talking about what you can do to better your future, especially as a young person. You know, you can invest, you can, and when I'm talking about investing, I'm not talking about scammy stuff. I'm talking about long-term investing, similar to how your superannuation is set up, where you're investing into sure things and you're investing into things that are more long-term rather than short-term. There is more to cover here, and I'm more than happy to do another video and really narrow down into certain topics that you want me to. Now, look, I had a whole list of stuff here that talked about the living situations and the financial situations for younger people, and I really want to cover those ones regarding, you know, income, living, spending. Shopping was the big one that I had really had to figure out quickly when I was younger, of why I didn't have any money. Setting up a budget tracker was the thing that did it for me. Understanding my ingoings and outgoings every month, you will surprise yourself, because tapping your card these days is so easy, you forget what money is worth. And you know, the things I didn't really cover is how to get into the good job, you know, what kind of industries are worth looking into. I did work as a recruiter, so I know a little bit about what those industries might look like, seeing people's salaries day in, day out, and actually seeing how little qualifications they had, which was very surprising. But these things can be achieved. You know, the biggest thing is about applying yourself, like I said, and if you do the right things, if you be careful with your spending, yes, you can actually buy a house in Australia. The median house prices are around $800,000 in Australia, maybe a bit more. I get that sounds expensive, but with the power of mortgage, especially now that interest rates are coming down, you can achieve this. And if you have a partner who's also on the same page as you, you can achieve it very easily. As a solo income earner, I understand it has its challenges, but you can still achieve buying a house, staying at home with your parents, renting out that house for the time being until you can drop the mortgage to an extent so you can move into it. There's so many things you can do to get ahead in life rather than just complain. I do think that people have a reason to complain, especially younger people, that they can't afford things. I get it, but at the same time, why bother complaining if you have the ability to change your situation? And most people do. I have been one of those people who used to complain. I don't complain anymore because I know the formula on how to do it, and I'm more than happy to share it. But look, leave a comment if you like this video. This is something very different to what I normally upload. I just thought I'd like to help people because I see a lot on Reddit. I see people in person who talk about how hard it is to live. And obviously the whole election has brought that to light, that people are struggling, or they feel like they're struggling, and maybe they're misguided. So I can talk about this kind of stuff until the cows come home. If you want to see more, or if you want to see me dive into something more particular about what I've missed today, I'll go ahead and do so. I'll jump in another car, I'll take you for a drive, and I'll continue making these type of videos to benefit you. That's the main thing in the end. So please like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave that comment. I want to see them. I will read them, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Take care.
And make sure you follow my channel so you can keep up to date with all my new videos. Thanks.